Hi, my name's Saadia Baber, and I'm the CEO and founder of Sikhana. I thought I'd make this video as a launch of my channel on YouTube, Sikhana, to give you a bit of intro about me, who I am, about the brand, and what I want to try and do with this channel. So, what you notice is there's Enlightened Minds Limited. So that is the umbrella brand of my company. But actually, within the company, I have two brands by the name of Experience Pakistan, which is my sister brand. It's all about holidays and tours Pakistan. Or then you've got Sikhana, which is my lifestyle brand, and that is all about creating creative luxury products for you and experiences, all with the view of trying to tell stories about cultures that are misrepresented or kind of the misinformation provided by the mainstream media. So I'm kind of using slides is the best way to do it because as much as I can just put myself on the screen, I just find that visuals so much more powerful to be able to get messages across. Now, I could spend hours or time, editing and overlaying with videos, but I'll be honest, that's not my expertise. And if I'm honest, it's also kind of if I'm not sure how much benefit you'll get versus me just doing it this way. So excuse me, this isn't supposed to be a PowerPoint presentation, but it's for me to kind of put into context of visuals behind the words that I'm going to say. So as I said, Sikhana for me is a channel that I want to use to be able to get across the essence of the brand and what it's all about. I'm a mum of three boys, which keep me very busy. But I'm also a Muslim woman, so a lot of what I try and do is trying to dispel the misconceptions around Islam, kind of women's rights in Islam, but also around countries that are misrepresented, which unfortunately tend to be in the Muslim world, from Pakistan, Iran to Palestine. And most importantly, I want to use my platform to empower other women and the youth, which are two big passion points of mine. So, a bit of intro. I am an ambitious solo entrepreneur. I've been doing my entrepreneurial journey for the last 5.5 years. I'm very well versed to doing live feeds and presenting, but up until now, I've tend to use Facebook and Instagram. So, why am I coming onto YouTube? I think one of the key reasons why I want to come onto YouTube is because I found that a lot of the audience that I talk to tend to be an older demographic, and they're really not on these social media platforms. But I know that YouTube is a platform for me. It's an economical way of getting on TV, but getting in front of people who probably still use YouTube for content, because there's no subscription involved unless you go for without adverts. But generally, it's more accessible to the vast majority. And I just think my demographic, my audience, probably more likely to for me to access via YouTube than I can perhaps kind of otherwise. If I'm honest, I also think YouTube is a great platform to be able to tell stories, to connect with people in an engaging way. And also because you'll see that for the last couple of years, I have been trying so hard to get into a high street retailer because I believe Sakana is a brand for everyone. Whilst I might be of Pakistani heritage and whilst the packaging and everything might be a lot more kind of cultural, it is not a brand that's confined to the Pakistani community or the Indian community. In fact, most of my customer and client base tend to be non-Asian. And they like the brand because of its authenticity and because of the exotic nature of the scents. But you know what? I've tried to get this through to buyers from John Lewis, from Harvey Nicks to Fortnum Masons, and if I'm honest, it is falling on deaf ears, and I'm getting frustrated. So I'm thinking, do you know what? Forget those retailers. I'm going to try and get to my audience directly via YouTube. So this isn't going to be a hardcore channel which involves me selling you the products. It will be a channel in which, of course, I will tell you about my products, tell you why they're so amazing and how you can use them. But more importantly, it's really to tell you about the stories behind the product, behind each scent, behind the platters, and my story, and why I think with your help and you supporting Sakana, we can try and make the communities we live in a better place. So I believe that actually brands and retailers can play a significant role in connecting people and make them more aware of some of the challenges that are happening around the world and what we can do as an everyday consumer. I think customers are more inclined to trust brands and retailers and what we say than the politicians. And certainly, the more I hear on LBC or what's happening in American politics, the more cynical I'm becoming, and the more I feel more empowered. But I kind of feel, and that's why I think I'm setting this channel up, because I think even there's more of a need to have channels like mine and brands like mine who can positively try and engage you, to bring to life some of the stories that perhaps you otherwise wouldn't be aware of because you're just not engaged with the news, or you've switched off. And I will try and be as objective as I can. I don't have any political agenda per se. I have an emotional, humane agenda, and that is to try and bring communities together and to dispel the misconceptions and the narratives that are created around Pakistan. Um, So I suppose I'm trying to give you the other narrative to try and balance, perspectives and balance views. And I know there are many media outlets doing that, but I suppose I'm doing it in the way that I know best, and that's through brands and product, because that is kind of what I live and breathe. So to sum up, I believe creative education is vital for a harmonious society, which I think can be done by brands and retailers. So let me tell you a bit about myself. I'm going to whiz through this, but I think it's important to contextualize, because I just think when you know the story of the person behind the brand, Jen, you're more likely to connect with them. There are some of you who may not connect with me, and I'm hoping that there was some that will be able to connect and understand, why I believe what I do is so authentic in its own way. So I was born in 1976. I was born in Pakistan, but when I was 2, we moved to the UK. My father worked for Habib Bank, so we moved because he was transferred to work here in London. We were only ever supposed to be here for 2 or 3 years, which is why I spent a lot of my childhood wearing my brother's clothes. Because my mum would always say, well, there's no point in me buying dresses, because in a couple of years' time, we're going to move back to Pakistan and you're going to be wearing the local kind of traditional outfits anyway. So I don't really want to waste money. Of course, like kind of that 2 years end up to 14 years. Yeah, my mum did buy some dresses along the way, but you'll find in a lot of the pictures growing up, I'm wearing my brother's clothes. Anyways, so I spent 14 incredible years here. But when I was 16, as I said, my father was transferred back to Pakistan. So we all moved back to Peshawar, which is my home city where I come from. Now, I wouldn't say I was disconnected from Pakistan, because we were going to Pakistan practically every year, because my father's one of 9 siblings. And every year we would have an uncle and aunt's wedding to attend. We also would spend many summer holidays in Pakistan and going up in the mountains, pretending to be, kind of, the famous five on our adventures, because that's where the weather was cooler. So to escape the heat in Peshawar, we would go up, north. So, but visiting a country as a holiday is very different to living in it. So when I was there for 3 years, I spent the first 6 months absolutely hating my dad for it. But to be fair, actually, after the 6 months, I had the most incredible 2.5 years of my life. It was fantastic to connect with my culture. I found my parents were a lot more at ease and relaxed because we had a driver, so we would be going out, and I think maybe the comfort of being in a Muslim country, I'm not sure, but if we would be out till about 2 in the morning. I had all my cousins there, and my parents, as I said, seemed a lot more relaxed. But it gave me time to connect and bond with my cousins, which, as I said, I knew my cousins because we would go back so often. But again, very different to actually living in the country. It also gave me a lot of empathy, understanding why they do certain things, because having lived in the country, you see some of the challenges they're up against. So in 1995, I came back to the UK, and you might be asking, well, what brought you back to the UK? If I'm honest, I was only ever supposed to come back to the UK to study, get my degree, and then go back and join the family business, or branch out and maybe have boutique or a textile, mill or something like that. Um, the reason I came back is because, unfortunately, this college I was going to, whilst it was fantastic in its own right, the piece of paper that it would give me actually would have no value on an international level. And I was always an academic. I was always a geek. And I said to my dad, I don't mind studying, but I want to study for something that means something. And we've had lots of people in Pakistan spending thousands of pounds to send their kids, to the UK or to the US to study. And I was a British national, and at the time, university education was free. So I said to my dad, I said, look, I'm a British national. I'm entitled to a free education, and I can get something that actually will have an international relevance. Um, it took a couple of years to convince my dad. To be fair, I do empathise with my dad. I come from a conservative family. I love my uncles and aunts, and I love my grandma to bits. But my grandma's was very much of the mindset that once you're 17, 18, you should get married, because ultimately that's what women were created for, to get married and have children. And, I don't blame her. She obviously was old school. She was 14 years herself when she got married. But I had more ambitious plans for myself. I didn't want to, and I say this, I don't mean to offend people. I don't say just a housewife, because I don't think you're ever just a housewife. I think the role housewives play, having been a stay-at-home mum for 4 years, no, it's incredible. But I wanted my life to be meaningful. I wanted to serve a purpose, to help society and community beyond just my family and my peers. And so therefore I wanted to, as I said, kind of have a degree and do something more with my life. To cut a long story short, as I said, I came here to study, but while I was studying here in the UK, my father was transferred to Brussels. So when I graduated, we moved to Brussels, and my father, because I couldn't speak French or Flemish, the reality is I probably couldn't work in any company there in Belgium. So my father then said, "Look, why don't you do an MBA? I can fund it, because you don't know where you will end up in life, and later on down the line, if you get married, doing an MBA with kind of in-laws or marriage and children would be challenging." And I think they were the best words and best advice he gave me, because I did that. I mean, the MBA I did was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I think 2 months into it, I remember breaking down in front of my dad and said, "I can't do it. I really can't. I just want to drop out." And it was his encouragement and motivation that got me to, I think, complete it. Um, but I remember, and the whole background to me telling you this, for the birth of Sikhana and the birth of Experience Pakistan, was that I've always been entrepreneurial. I've always wanted, and I always knew that I wanted to have my own brand, my own business. And I remember when I graduated, addressing my peers, and getting very emotional, and I started crying, and I think I got my peers to cry as well. And um, it was all about saying that, look, I have a sense of responsibility, a burden on my shoulders, because I kind of feel I'm the lucky one who's able to be here on the stage. I know of girls that I studied with in Pakistan, in Peshawar, who were far more intelligent than me and deserved a place there. But I was there because I had the financial means, but most importantly, I had supportive parents who believed in my ambition, who believed in me and gave me those opportunities. So I want to, at some point in my life, and at the time I didn't quite know how, but I wanted to give back and wanted to do something for the girls in Pakistan, but more specifically Peshawar, and to give them some kind of platform. And as I said at the time, I didn't really know how I would do it, but it was there. And I will go through, as I tell you, my journey for Experience Pakistan and for Sikhana, of how I do it with these brands. But before I do that, kind of that's my personal journey, and that can tell you why I've got such a passion for Pakistan, for my identities. I kind of thought I'll just quickly whiz through my professional journey. So I spent 6 years working retail. Now I worked in retail whilst I was a student at kind of because, again, not that I particularly needed to, but I, as I said, always wanted to work. Growing up, didn't really was never really encouraged to work, because mum and dad, like, as I said, I come from a privileged background. They would provide pocket money, but I think I had that hunger, that I wanted the self-respect. I didn't want to ask my dad for money from Pakistan. I wanted to earn enough that I could just support my living costs myself. So whilst I was studying, I was lucky. I worked at Next, which was one of the best retailers to work for as a student, because you could really progress up the ranks as well, and there's always overtime available. Harrods, I worked at for 6 months. I worked at Selfridges, and I worked at Fortnum Mason. So I got a really good array of working in a popular high street retailer like Next, and then to more luxury brands like Harrods and Selfridges. And at the time, you don't realize it, but I think now, when I'm on my entrepreneurial journey, I learned so much from working there, in terms of merchandising, in terms of kind of staff management, rotas, etc., which you don't ever realize when you're ever going to use it. Because I always thought I'm doing a degree. I'm not going to end up working, kind of on the shop floor, because I was always thinking, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I thought I don't really need to go to uni to do that. I can do that anyway. When I graduated, I then worked for 5 years in branding and marketing. So worked at Unilever, Coke, and Elizabeth Arden. So from FMCG brand, as I said, the best global brand in the world, in my opinion. I learned loads from Diet Coke, Fanta, Dr. Pepper. At Unilever, I worked in the glorious world of Cif and Domestos, so household cleaning products, but learned loads about category range reviews, how to approach retailers to get your brand stocked. And then I worked on Elizabeth Arden, which is obviously a luxury kind of cosmetic brand. I then took a 4-year career break. I had my kids and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And quite frankly, I was happy as a stay-at-home home mum. I really enjoyed my time with the kids. And I think I owe credit to my parents, but also my husband, who really kind of suggested I should go back to work. Again, not particularly because we needed the money, but it was about, you've got a degree, you've got an MBA, do you really not want to do anything with it? And I remember, because I didn't want the kids to feel neglected, but they were like, but equally, my husband and my mum would always say, look, the kids, when they grow up, won't need you as much, and then what will you have? And I think there's such good words of wisdom that I would also share with other women, because I know when we have children, we always get emotional, because you love your children, you don't want to feel you're missing out or depriving them. But I think don't ever forget a piece of yourself, because, like in my situation now, my kids are grown up, they're teenagers. Of course, they still need me, and they'll still grow, but they don't need me as much. So if I didn't have my businesses, I would have so much free time that it would drive me nuts. I don't think, I don't know what I would do. So yeah, always do something for yourself, because inevitably your kids are going to need you less and less as they grow up, and you need to have something for yourself. So, so they basically, I set up Experience Pakistan and Sikhana back in 2000. Well, I set up Experience Pakistan back in 2018, and that was very much because, having spent kind of my time working, I got to the point where my husband said, "Well, what do you want to do now?" Because after, what I haven't said is, after consulting, I took another 2-year break, and part of the reason I took a 2-year break is my mother-in-law got ill. But also my children were going to 3 different schools, so it was just becoming very difficult to juggle the school drop-offs, and obviously kind of my mother-in-law's illness, although that wasn't the driving factor. Unfortunately, that actually came about once I had taken the break. So everything happens for a reason. But when she sadly passed away, and the kids were a bit more settled, my husband then said, well, what do you want to do now? And I think it was then like, well, do I finally start my entrepreneurial journey, or do I go back in the corporate world, where I know I'll get kind of a nice salary packet every month, and I don't have to think about it? And yeah, I took the view that I would take the gamble, and I think the time is right to start my entrepreneurial journey. Although sometimes when I look back and I look at COVID and look at kind of austerity, and the way the business world is going, I do sometimes question that. So, as a brand, Sikhana, what is my mission? So, it is all about becoming the number one experiential brand. But but I want the brand. So, when every time you think of Sikhana, or someone says Sikhana, I want to be recognized for being the brand that changes perceptions and the narratives around the Muslim world, and it does so in a way that's bringing communities together. So it's not about division, but it's a way of, how do we bring different cultures, communities together, get them talking, and actually remove some of the misconceptions that are being created by irresponsible media reporting. And I want to do it the best way I do it. As I said, my background is branding, business. I love products, I love business. So rather than doing in a way that's preaching or teaching, I'm still doing that, but in a subtle way, through products and experiences, because ultimately, I love brands and I love product development. So this video summarizes really what the brand's all about. So I'm going to shut up for a minute for you to enjoy this video. So that really kind of summarizes what Experience Pakistan is all about. I'm going to see if I can get to the next slide. Okay, so the brand journey. So as I said, I set the company up in 2018. Now, at the time, Sikhana didn't exist. It was actually Experience Pakistan. And that was very much for me about how do I make Pakistan accessible in an engaging manner and remove the misconceptions people have around the people and the country. And I thought the best way to do that was by creating holidays and taking people on experiential holidays in Pakistan and showing it to them through my eyes. At the time, if you told me that you're going to do candles or serving platters, I was like, don't be silly, I do holidays, that's why would I even do that? But you have to, as a business woman or entrepreneur, be adaptable. So in February 2020, or January, in February, Pakistan was getting really good press, and I thought, I had a really strong pipeline. People started to know about my brand, and I thought, I had a lot of holiday bookings, and I thought finally at the end of the year, I might even make a little bit of a profit. But of course, in March 2020, COVID hit us, and the whole world came into shutdown and lockdown. And I'm so glad that in April I kind of called all my customers and I took the view that I would cancel all their bookings and give them a refund. Now I was lucky. I have really nice customers and clients, and many of them said, "Look, just keep the deposit, and we'll just postpone it." But I think the way the news was going and the way the reporting was going, I was a bit nervous because I was like, well, we're not really sure how long this will happen. So I'd rather issue a refund, and if things reopen 6 months, you can give me the deposit again and we can go about it again. But for the time being, I really didn't want to hold anyone's money. And I'm so glad I did because, as I said, the country went into lockdown, and Pakistan in particular, certainly for the UK customers, went on the red list. So for 2 years, it was a country you couldn't access for holidays. Um, After about a few months of feeling sorry for myself and crying and thinking, God, I've just invested so much money in the promotion, the advertising, what am I going to do now? I was able to get a small grant. So the local government councillors or boroughs were giving small grants if you needed some help to diversify or set up something new as a result of COVID. And it was really kind of credit to my brother-in-law and my sister who gave me the idea of doing candles. Um, and I created Launch Experience Pakistan Lifestyle. So I developed a collection of scents. So my Jambeli Kapoor was the very first scent I created. And the reason I thought, well, why don't I do candles and fragrances is because scents play a really pivotal role in conjuring up nostalgic memories. And I wanted to do that. So I basically launched these scents, and I figured that if I can't take you to Pakistan, let me bring it to your homes. So the scents were named after different cities and places in Pakistan. So you've got Punjab the Gulab, Jambeli Kapoor, you've got my Hunza blossoms. Because what I wanted to try and do is I still wanted to try and connect the tourism aspect to the brand. And what I was really hoping to do, hence the name Experience Pakistan Lifestyle, was having spent all that time and effort trying to get brand awareness for Experience Pakistan, was to keep that brand alive in people's homes. So this was my way of doing that, of ensuring that my brand stayed alive in people's minds. But also, I knew that people spending more time at home, spending a lot of time, a lot of money on candles and diffusers, and I just thought that the scents would really conjure up nostalgic memories and bring some joy, which I'm hoping it did, because every time someone smelt Jambeli Kapoor or they smelt Punjab the Glab, many people from Thailand, Iran, India, Greece, Pakistan, all of these countries could resonate or connect with those scents and did remind them of home. Um, so that was kind of how Experience Pakistan Lifestyle started. And as time went by, I expanded the range to not just include candles, but have reed diffusers, room sprays, and then also serving platters. So the serving platters I designed, but I don't make myself. But the graphics and the artwork and the designs, I've been inspired by the architecture, the landscape that one can find in Pakistan and the Muslim world. So again, it was all about, right, how can I bring a piece of Pakistan into your homes? Um, the brand since then has grown. So after doing a few kind of pop-ups and Christmas fairs and everything, I finally got approved by John Lewis, or by the Great Brand Exchange. So my journey to do pop-ups in John Lewis started in May 2022. And it was fantastic. I mean, for me, it was brilliant because it's validation at a large scale. It was great to see the brand in a key high street store, and the way people connected, their response to the brand was huge. I went in with very low expectations, and as I said, it was beyond imagination, and really kind of the brand just grew and grew because people from South Africa, people from kind of African countries, people from Romania, people from other countries that are often misrepresented in the media could understand my journey. They could understand what I was trying to do, via Experience Pakistan Lifestyle in terms of putting Pakistan on people's radar for the right reasons. I mean, I had some interesting conversations, where there were some people who just had such a negative view of Pakistan and the country that no matter what, I could never change their mind, which is fine, each to their own. But what it did show to me is that not only was the brand connecting with people, but also when people smelt the product, when the people saw the product, I have such kind words that people said that the packaging, and I'm not saying it because it's my own product, but it is at a different level. And this isn't arrogance, but when people say to me, "Oh, but your prices are the same as Joe Malone," in fact, they're not; they're slightly cheaper. I always respond thinking, "Yeah, but I have a better product than Joe Malone in terms of the raw materials. I source from the same supplier." But why do I think it's better? I think it's better because of the packaging. I think it's better because it has depth, it has a meaning, a story to it. It's better because actually, when you buy from me, it's not just going into my bank balance, but actually, you're enabling me to empower other women and to help some of the local community projects. So, in so many ways, I kind of almost feel insulted saying, please don't compare me with other kind of high-end brands. Now I don't want to be slanderous because it could be that maybe they are doing something in their own right that I'm not aware of, but as far as I'm aware, I'm probably kind of one of the few brands that actually is using the platform, and using candles and diffusers actual for social good beyond my bank balance. Anyway, slight digression. In kind of, so as I said, between 2022 2023, I was doing a lot of pop-ups in John Lewis's in Brent Cross, in Oxford Street, Peter Jones. I kind of did High Wycombe, and then I did Harvey Nicks in Manchester. And 2023, last year, I kind of thought, right, okay, I want to start trying to do something on my own. Part of the reason is, as well as these pop-ups are fantastic when you're in these stores, you are giving a sizable commission to the retailers, which, to be fair, I don't mind, because at the end of the day, we're leveraging from the platform they've created over years, and they spend loads. So principally, I don't have a problem with that. But I think it's like where the commission rates were going up last year, and it was becoming a bit more kind of financially challenging, where I found that these pop-ups, while they're great from a PR perspective, in terms of actually by the time I took my time out, my efforts and my everything, there wasn't very much left for me. So last year I thought, right, let me try and do a few independent pop-ups, because I'd really like to see that can the brand on its own right command the price point and get the interest. And alhamdulillah, it did. We did a couple of pop-ups. I did one in Hammersmith, not so good, but I think that was more about location, wrong audience. But then the other one was an Angel, where we had again, the Angel one, we had two cracking days, so the weekends were brilliant. However, the rest of the week wasn't so great. But that's a learning curve for us. They weren't great, not because the brands weren't good, but because there was just no footfall. And despite the fact that there was barely any footfall, still managed to turn around and profit and still do really, really well. So I would, it's one of those things. It was nice because actually the customers we got were connecting with the brand. They connected with myself, and then my colleague who does luxury chocolates handmade in Chiltern. So that really gave me confidence that actually Sikhana on its own legs can stand. And this year very much is about trying to find other opportunities to do either an independent pop-up or find a brand that I can collaborate with and do a concession via them. And of course, my YouTube journey has started as well, which I didn't put here. And you're all probably thinking, why YouTube? So I've been doing a lot of live feeds on Facebook, on Instagram, but when I do these pop-ups, I realize that many of my customers that I talk to and I engage with actually aren't on any of these social media platforms. And I think part of the reason is either it's because you've got to subscribe, or they just see it's too young for them. But YouTube is a channel for me in which you can almost get on TV to a wide audience, kind of where in a more cost-effective, effective way than you can advertising on TV. So YouTube is a really good platform for me to be able to not just tell my stories, but take people on my journey and hopefully connect with larger audience, which perhaps I'm just not able to do via Instagram and Facebook. So that was a really long kind of intro in terms of kind of the brand and what the journey has been for the brand. In terms of, I go on about socially responsible. So just to give you examples of some of the things that I do as a brand is my Ramadan food parcels. So I'm going to just for a while take myself off screen, so you can just kind of hear my voice and content. So the Ramadan food parcels. What are these initiatives all about? What they tend to entail are three-course home cooked meals that we make for local families in the area that could benefit from, that could basically benefit from the meals. One of the key reasons I did this is I started doing it in COVID, because in COVID, as you know, we were all in lockdown, and normally we in Ramadan have iftar parties to invite friends around. And I thought, well, actually, that money that I would have used for an iftar party and that time and effort I would have used for cooking, actually, why don't I use it to help local families? Because I know that actually there are some families who are really suffering and could do with a decent home cooked meal. I then kind of reached out to neighbours and friends, and said, look, I'm doing this initiative, do you guys want to pull in and help me out? They were fantastic. And then I put it in a couple of Facebook groups. And before I knew it, I had a team for about 20 people. Some people just donate money towards it. Some people are actually, some people are, I'm just going to change mode. So some people donate money to it. Some people actually kind of, do the cooking with me. Some people do the shopping. Some people do the delivery. And what I found is that even coming out of COVID, things haven't changed. If anything, things have got worse in terms of cost of living crisis. So for that reason, we've continued to do it. So every time you purchase from me, indirectly, you're almost enabling me to have the financial means to be able to reinvest my time and effort to do some of these parcels. We also empower local women. So I'm a firm believer that I think sports is great for mental health, whether you're men or women. So my boys play for the local cricket club, Chalfont St. Peter's. And last year I was really pleased when I heard that they've launched a women's and girls cricket team. Now, many of you will know that when you're a kind of women's sports, still find it quite challenging to find sponsors. And Tanya, who's the captain for the team and set up the initiative, approached me and said, look, we've got this team, but we want to try and make them look represented, so have a brand kit. And I remember said, look, I can't really afford to do the t-shirts because I'm just having a bit of a slow year, but I can certainly provide them with caps, because I know in the summer, it's like when you're women, you want to keep your hair off your face, but also you want the shade. So I've kind of sponsored them this year, or this year and last year, by donating caps to them. I am hoping to kind of do more and help empower them. I mean, this year, for the last few weeks, I've been joining in the nets, because coming from a Pakistani family, obviously, I grew up, playing cricket and watching cricket. My dad was a big cricketer growing up. He now plays golf, but cricket was very much a part of our lives. So I've had a really good last 3 weeks enjoying it with them. So yeah, that's kind of one of the initiatives that I do. And then the other initiative is empowering women and youth. So with my Experience Pakistan we do some workshops and experiences with local home chefs. So that in the picture is Anila. So she's a home chef that we've collaborated with, and we create experiences for our customers in her home, and she teaches them how to make bashari fried chicken. But we're now what I'm working on behind the scenes is to replicate that and do some of those experiences here in the UK from via Sikhana. So as I said, Sikhana actually means to educate in Urdu. And I think that experiences are the best way to do that. And we've got pockets in the UK which are a speciality for Pakistani food. We know that there's streets where specific areas which are known for their Iraqi food or the Iranian food or the Palestinian food. So starting off this year, what I am looking to do is develop some street food tours, but Pakistani street food tours that you can enjoy, enabling you to access some of the cultures here in the UK, some of the brands that you would perhaps otherwise not come across. But I want to do that with women here in the UK, who perhaps have never worked corporately, so don't have the confidence, but actually love shopping, love eating, and probably would be the best guides in the world to tell you where to buy the masalas, to buy the clothes, and the best places to eat. And so, what I'm trying to do is find a team of women that I can train and then deliver the tours via them. So, the future of the brand, I'm going to wrap up here because the video has been way longer than I wanted to. So, as I said, this year actually is all about trying to find another store in which I can do some concessions, where the brand values align with mine. I am also looking to see if I can get an investor to do an independent pop up, not an independent pop, sorry, have an independent store that I can represent the brand properly in. So, watch this space. I'm also looking to develop these street food tours that I mentioned, because I just think um, dialogue, food, are such good avenues and such good ways to connect people and to remove barriers. And that's kind of what I really want to try and do this year as well. And I'm hoping that by the end of this year, you will see a Sikhana on a high street, and that in 2025 we'll have a model where we'll have a couple more stores. So there's some of the brand aspirations. But in the meantime, I'm going to just come back to myself. Um, In the meantime, as I said, for me, creative education is the best way to remove ignorance. So I'm going to this year hopefully look to develop develop this YouTube channel and use this as a platform to engage you, to take you on stories about some of the cultures that misrepresented, share with you knowledge about my journey with the kids for the 11 plus, giving hints and tips of what you can do from that, sharing with journeys on like branding, some great apps that I've come across where I wish I'd known about early on, because I would have saved a hell of a lot of money and time. And of course, sharing with all of you my journey in terms of, some of the challenges that I've had from my entrepreneurial journey perspective. And of course, finally telling you about my products, why my products are so great, why I think you should buy them, and how you can use my serving platters in a creative way. So these are all kind of things that you can expect from my channel that I wish to focus on, and get these messages across to you. I hope you've enjoyed the intro. It was a very long intro into me. And if you've been inspired and you think you will enjoy the content of my channel, please do subscribe and share this with other people who are perhaps thinking about starting their journey or along the way that you think that I could motivate and inspire. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching. And I hope to see you all on my next video. Take care.